Hello and welcome back to my channel where I like to have fun with all things beauty while being critical about what I accept into my collection. Today is an extremely casual chat about new makeup video. So a few days ago I sat down and I filmed a proper new makeup video where I went through Instagram, the new makeup accounts, and I talked about a lot of different things. But I realized when I was watching that footage back that I am just not doing well this week. I've had a bout of insomnia, and that makes it really, like, it's already difficult to edit myself because I pause a lot and I get weirded out that I'm even doing this. Like, I feel myself talking to myself, that type of thing. And it was terrible. And I know this will pass. I am actually very lucky in that I normally can sleep, but since I was a little kid, I just have periods of times, once or twice a year. Luckily, it seems to only be that often, but when that happens, I really have a hard time thinking straight and staying on task across the board. So that video was hot garbage at the end of it, so I deleted it, and I feel like, honestly, there's enough of those on the internet. You don't need to hear my thoughts about each and everything. But that being said, I still wanted to come on here just very casually and talk about what my strategy is going into this holiday season, because I know I've mentioned this, but I've recently had an extraordinary amount of medical bills for my dog. So we've had like $25,000 worth of vet bills, and we're still going every 2 weeks. So that number is growing. And because of that, I cannot just sit here and buy every indie release just because I like it and it's pretty, because as much as I love trying all the things, it doesn't feel good anymore to do that. And I also really like supporting indie brands. That's another thing, especially right now, but I know that I'm not in the position to do that. So I'm going to be reining it in. For example, I just saw the new Lethal release. I love Lethal Cosmetics. They're one of my favorite indie brands. I love Halloween. I love the theme. The Conjuring, that's so cool. They do a better job than anyone making those collabs. But I know that's something I'm going to have to pass up because there are other things. I have come to the point where I've just made a list of my priorities, and then anything else, anything left over, goes to holiday gifts. So I have to be really strategic this year, as do a lot of people, for a multitude of reasons. So what I'm going to do is just talk about the things I am most interested in. Anyway, I'm going to start with probably the most exciting release, which is the Pat McGrath Gilded Nirvana. Now, we're still waiting for the proper photos on the website. We don't have those yet, but she did release a video where people were able to take screenshots, and we know that we're getting one full palette, little blush duos, a bunch of accessories, and then this. So she's going back to her roots. She's coming out with a re-release of Gold 001, which was her first ever eyeshadow on the market. And I couldn't believe the irony, because I have been wanting to pick that up just as a collector and a lover of Pat McGrath for years and years. And finally, about, I don't know, a month or two ago on Mercari, I think, I saw a really good deal. I think somebody was selling this for $40 or $50. But I just picked up Metamorphosis 005 first edition limited release. This comes with the Gold 001 pigment, Gold 005 cream, black dual-ended marker, and the Mayron mixing medium. I also just noticed there's some kind of a cardboard thing in here. Not sure what that is, but this may, by some miracle, still hold some amount of value, but I don't know. I mean, this may lower it by some degree. I don't know that it was ever worth anything. I am not in the business of collecting makeup typically. However, when I realized that Pat McGrath was doing away with the traditional Blitz Astral shades, I was getting nervous that the brand was going to go away too. So I put a bunch of searches in Poshmark and Mercari, and I just watched. I didn't buy everything full price. I was genuinely waiting for deals, but I tried to get every single Blitz Astral, and I did that successfully. I'm very proud of that. And I also got a couple of items not to use, just to have as collector pieces. I got this, and I got Divine Rose 1 in the light pink case, so that one was a little bit harder to come by. I know that Divine Rose 2 in the metallic pink case was a little more prominent, and I don't think people like that palette. I didn't like that palette as much. So that one is still sort of on my wish list, but that's it. I mean, I'm not collecting anything beyond that. You can find it for sure, but it's a few $100s, and that's just not guaranteed to appreciate by any means. So I don't think that that would be a good investment, but 40 or 50 bucks, I didn't feel terrible about this. And at the end of the day, as much as I don't like a lot of what the company has done, I hold a grudge. I still hate them for what they did to Monica Bell with the Stickergate situation. I had my own really bad experience with customer service, them blocking people. Anybody who's a little bit critical of them on Instagram, they get blocked. That's insane. Like, I don't appreciate that. Plus, we've heard rumors that things are not like super friendly, I guess you could say, at the company. And then you add on top of that all these bizarre releases. The past couple years, the Candy Crush stuff, like it was just one weird thing after the other. And then when we stopped getting the Blitz Astrals, that's when I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't need every new release. I'm sad about it, but it's over for me. I'm still following Pat McGrath though. I don't know how much of that she even has control over. So I'm still going to allow myself to be excited about her until I see proof that I shouldn't like her. And I mean genuine proof. I don't mean just Nikki tutorials having one bad experience. I mean, I need evidence. If I see evidence, then I will reevaluate. But at this point, I have nothing to indicate that. And I've actually gotten to meet somebody who met her and said she was lovely, so I'm gonna go with that. It's 2025. Like, we are in a free fall as a country. I need something to be excited about. And Pat McGrath has always been my favorite makeup artist. Like, for the past 2 years, I keep trying to justify it, and I'm like, I'm done. Anybody who would actually buy this is a serious fan, and that's where I'm at. So when I saw this release, and it felt like getting back to her roots at least a little bit, you know, this new palette, I'm sure there's no Blitz Astrals in this. I mean, I don't even know if this palette is made in Italy. We will find those details out soon, and I'm really hoping that it is. But even if it isn't, I do think the gold 001 should at least be the original formula as far as I know. So to me, that's a strong indication that they want to get back to some of that original essence that they had when they first started, which was very artistry forward, mass appeal second. And that is why I love them so much. So I definitely plan on picking this up. And I gotta be honest, I've been looking at the blush duos, and I might get that too. It depends on the price of that, but I've wanted those for a while. So if they're minis and they're a little bit more affordable, that could be a perfect time. And now, will I pick up a second gold 001? I might. That is going to be very price dependent as well, because obviously the one I have, I'm not going to use. And I was not into makeup when it came out originally. So even though I have some things that came out soon after that I do use, I don't have one, a gold 001 that I can use. So I might pick this up for that reason if it's under $50. If it's over $50, then I think I would more than likely wait for a sale. They typically have sales. We've seen less lately, but price is definitely going to play a big part in this. As far as the eyeshadow stick goes, I think I'm gonna pass. Unless that's like a super, super good deal. I don't use eyeshadow sticks. I have so many and I don't use them. I also don't really like gold. Gold is not really a color that I think is flattering on me, so that wouldn't make sense for me to pick up. But this palette and those blushes, I will definitely use both. I think the accessories look really fun. I like that they're trying to have some fun with this stuff, but I don't really understand any of it. I don't know who Judith Lieber is, so that's lost on me. But compared to the last few holiday releases, I think this is beautifully executed, and I am absolutely here for it, 100%. It releases on the 26th. Now, we used to get 10% off coupons if we signed up for the VIP, whatever, early access. I feel like they stopped doing that. I'm not 100% sure, but I really hope we get one of those because that would help. And yeah, there's not really a lot of other things to say other than I'm here for it and I'm happy to see it. The other release that I am heavily prioritizing right now, and this is probably number one, actually, if I had to choose between the two, I think number one is Danessa Myricks and number two is the McGrath Holiday release. So the Lightwork palette hasn't been announced yet, but we all know it's coming sometime in the next month or so. We're going to hear about that, and I guarantee it's going to be at least $130. So I need to definitely start thinking about that and putting some money aside because I was so thrilled with last year's Lightwork palette that this is probably going to be a blind buy. I don't even know that I need to see it. She has come out with so many good eyeshadow products in the past couple years. They just keep getting better. I don't see a world in which I won't be getting the Lightwork palette. And then I think I'm going to try to cool it. I heard Hope Mess Tom recently talk about getting to a point with the makeup that you have where it's just too much. You can't enjoy it. Like whatever that diminishing returns point where you make a certain amount of money and beyond that, it's actually more harm than good. There is such thing as too much of a good thing. And I do feel like kind of like that with my collection. I'm not enjoying the stuff I have. It's becoming overwhelming. I don't like that feeling. I don't like spending so much money on makeup when I know there's basically no eyeshadow color that I don't have at this point. It doesn't feel good. So I'm gonna really start pulling back. And I know it's easy for me to sit here and say that right now. Angelica Neekfist mentioned in a few of her videos at this point that in the next 2 weeks, it's gonna be like floodgates open with the holiday releases. And that's gonna be so much more difficult to resist, especially these indie brands because they really get me with the eyeshadow palette. But I have so many that I love. I've decided that right now, my favorite eyeshadow brand is Glaminatrix. So if it's not Glaminatrix, I don't need it. If it is Glaminatrix, I don't need it right now. I mean, I'm putting that on hold too. I'm not buying anything other than the 2 holiday palettes I just mentioned for the rest of the year, but I need to remind myself of that when I see these indie releases. But anyway, luckily, some things that have tempted me in the past didn't tempt me this time around. So like the Hourglass palettes, for example. I have 4 Hourglass palettes. 2 of them especially I really love, but I don't use them that often. So when I saw these come out, they didn't even really look all that great to me. And even in the reviews, like when I was seeing people put them on their face, I felt like it looked muddy, even on models and influencers. So I'm very grateful because I don't need more powder blush. And if I'm real, the only things I really like from Hourglass and the powders are the blushes and the finishing powders. I don't really like their highlighters and I really don't like their bronzers. So Lord knows I need more blush like a hole in the head. So I was really glad it was somewhat easy to pass those up. Speaking of face palettes, which I rarely actually use, I also wanted to mention these from Nars because normally I snooze right through these, but this year, and it's partly because of the packaging, but I also do genuinely like the color choices. I would consider getting one of these blush palettes. Nothing else I don't think I would use enough. But one of these blush palettes on sale only. I won't buy it full price, but if one of them goes, 20% off during the Sephora sale or whatever, I would consider it. But I do know myself and I would have to make a concerted effort to use it despite how beautiful it is. Natasha Denona release did get me. I picked up the soft palette and then I also got the foundation. I am still trying to wrap my head around both. I will say this, I kind of regret it. I am vacillating between these are perfectly useful to I'm just going to return both. Right now, even I'm doing a wear test. This side of my face is Nars Light Reflecting Foundation. This side of my face is the Natasha Denona Foundation. And I like it, but I certainly don't like it more than my Nars. If anything, it's a little bit thick and drying. So not what I expected, not what I was bargaining for. So it wasn't the perfect foundation that was going to replace my Nars because I love this one, but I don't have a good shade in it. So having a better shade in Natasha, I thought maybe this was my perfect solution. That doesn't seem to be the case. I'm just debating at this point if it's good enough to keep. I think it is. I do think it is, but if I'm even debating it, that's not a good sign. The eyeshadow palette is another thing. I look at it at first and I'm like, that's just useful. That soft palette, everyday useful. I can use it just the way I use my I Need a Nude as a companion palette. In practice, though, I don't like the tones. I don't like the tones. I'm missing all the ones that I want, and the ones included in this that I maybe don't have other places are not all that flattering on me. So I'm very disappointed with that palette. I have to say, I also don't love the formula. I really prefer her traditional matte powder formula. That's my favorite. So as much as I look at that as just a basic, like how can you not use that? Shockingly, I am not wanting to use it. So that did not go anywhere near as well as I expected. The other foundation that I've had my eye on ever since I found out that it actually does provide some coverage was this from Victoria Beckham, but based on the ingredients of the Augustine is Bader that I'm just not impressed with, I don't want to pay extra for that. So if I do pick this up, it will 100% be on sale. I remember, I think last year she had a really good Black Friday sale, so this is on the maybe list for that. I am going to try to get my hands on a sample ahead of time. But yes, there are sales coming. So nothing needs to happen now. My preference is a light to medium coverage, but because my skin is so dry, this is definitely on my radar and I will update if I do buy it in the future. The last thing I'll mention for tonight is the other financial hole I dug myself in. So I feel like I'm normally really pretty good about sticking to a budget. I don't really have a problem with reining it in when I start to spend too much, typically around the holidays. That's my big problem time with all the sales. I'm a sucker for a sale. But even with that, and the Sephora sale coming up, I believe it starts on October 31st. So I am starting to strategize for that too. I think I'm only getting 4 items, which I will probably talk about in a video soon. But something happened about a week ago that I'm not proud of. I feel like I blacked out and I bought a bunch of Louis Vuitton makeup. And I will make a video about that. I'm still waiting for one more lipstick refill to show up. And when I have that, I will sit down and I will make a video, not because there aren't plenty of other reviews up, just as sort of a public service to show it on my skin tone, because I feel like unlike most makeup where you can at least at some point get to a store and see it in person, this is in so few locations that I don't think that's fair. I don't think that it's nice that they're doing it that way. I hope they expand. But regardless, I don't care what tools they add to the website to do a virtual try on or whatever. Yeah, I think it probably is a little bit better than the one on Sephora, but it's still not great. So to see it used in person, I think is infinitely valuable if you are planning on purchasing anything from this line. I think they make beautiful gifts. So I think with the holidays coming up, if you're thinking about gifts and just whatever, I decided I'm going to do it because I bought the stuff. You can't return it unless it's unopened. You can return it if it's unopened, but if you open it and swatch it or touch it at all, you can't return it. So I have this stuff now. I might as well put it out there, even though I know it's going to open me up to some amount of criticism, especially since I was one of the people heavily criticizing it when it was first announced. And I think it's so interesting because I didn't expect to feel so differently about this than I did when I first saw it. When I first saw it, I was disgusted. I was like, that's an insane amount of money. What are they thinking? Who do they think they are? They are not Hermes. What are they even doing? But I have since come to appreciate the fact that they did actually do something different. And when I look at the packaging of those other luxury fashion houses, plus the quality of the makeup inside, I do like that they tried to actually elevate this. And let's be real, they hired one of the most talented and influential makeup artists in the entire world to lead this campaign, and I'm sure that wasn't cheap. So between that and the engineering of the packaging, I've come around. I don't think it's worth the money. I don't think the makeup is good enough to ever be worth what they're charging for it, but value is in the eye of the beholder. And as much as I dislike the aesthetic of luxury branded stuff, I think that there is like a place for luxury fashion houses because it's art. And art is important. It's an important part of society. I don't think it's totally useless. I've always shied away from luxury fashion houses when it comes to fashion. When it comes to makeup, on the other hand, especially the complexion products, I love luxury complexion products. They're geared typically towards an older audience that has less than perfect skin, and I think it's really beautiful. What I never liked from luxury was the eyeshadows. I just felt like, why bother? They're so dull and they're so overpriced. And I tried a lot. I've tried the Tom Fords, the Chanels, the Gucci. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to remember all the brands. The only one that ever impressed me was the YSL clutches. The topper shades in those were super sparkly, but also refined. They were absolutely stunning. I think Stora Dolls and Babylon Roses were the two that really stood out to me as being something special. Outside of that, I genuinely felt like they're just not for me. I'm into indie. That's my favorite eyeshadow. And, you know, Pat McGrath and Natasha Denona. But I was never really tempted by any of it. And if I liked it, it was like a passing thing. I liked it, but I didn't feel like I needed it. This took on a life of its own when they involved Pat McGrath, but I will tell you right now, if she leaves and they hire somebody else, I think I'm going to be out, which will be really good for my bank account. But I'm done now. I don't plan on buying anything else. I've heard a rumor that they're coming out with 2 more eyeshadow palettes for holiday, but that was literally just some random person on the internet. So I have no reason to think that that's actually true. I know that they're coming out with a bunch of more stuff for the line, but I think that was starting in the spring. I don't know. We could get lip liners sooner than that, but at least at this point, I think it's going to be a minute before we see blush and foundation and all the other things. I know they're coming. I'm so curious to see what they put the foundation in because I think it's high time we get some new foundation packaging. That would be exciting. But I'm glad it's slow. I have my eyeshadow and a couple lipsticks and I'm good now, but I am no longer a hater. I always say I'm willing to change my mind about things. Like, I'm not willing to change my beliefs about like basic human rights and anything like that, but pretty much everything else is fair game. That's what learning is. That's what evolving is. So I wish I didn't comfort so hard in the beginning, but I see the value in it now, at least for me. I don't ever think it's worth it, but I have been enjoying the experience with it genuinely. As long as I don't overindulge, I think it is a nice thing. And again, they make absolutely beautiful gifts, and the things do seem to be coming back into stock. That was another thing. If they did the whole scarcity thing without ever doing restocks, I would have had a bone to pick with the whole situation, but they don't seem to be doing that. They are restocking things. They are providing refills, which is a big thing that a lot of other companies don't do. They make refillable packaging, but then you can't ever get the refills. So they're not being shady about any of that. I did sort of have a weird experience in store, but I'll talk about all of that in the video when I do finally review these items. The palette is what's on my eyes. This is Nude Mirage, and I have the lipstick in shade 202. So that's coming up. I will eventually try to gather my thoughts about the new Natasha Denona stuff. And I'm hoping to do a Sephora video where I just talk about the things that I'm repurchasing. Nothing all that crazy and exciting. And I know if you're watching this, makeup is probably your Achilles heel as well. So if you're on a budget, feel free to reach out and we can support each other and try to resist some of these things coming out. There's a lot of people competing for our dollars right now. But anyway, that's enough for me for today. Thank you so much for hanging out for a little while to talk about some of the new makeup. I'm always chatty. I try not to be this chatty, but there's been a lot going on and I've had a really hard time making videos. So I very much want to get back to the higher quality content soon. I'm hoping if things start to calm down in my life, I can start doing that. So anyway, I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're having a beautiful day or night wherever you are. I love you so much and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.